City Council is thinking about having housing providers pay relocation fees even if they're evicting a tenant. Let's talk about it. All right. Hello, everyone. Rick Albert here, realtor here in Los Angeles, house hacking investor and out-of-state investor. Today, we're going to talk about what City Council is proposing, which is paying relocation fees. It was originally reported by the LA Times about this. The basic premise is we have a housing crisis. We have tenants that might be in some financial problems, and they stop paying rent, and therefore they're going to get evicted. But if they get evicted, historically, you didn't have to, as a housing provider or landlord, to pay relocation fees. You only had to pay relocation fees if it was a no-fault eviction. No-fault evictions would be things like landlord moving in, maybe wanting to do major renovations, versus at-fault evictions could be things like not paying rent. Is this a good idea or not? Well, of course, if you're a tenant advocate, of course it's a great idea. There's a reason why these people are getting evicted, and it could be because they can't pay rent. So if they can't pay rent here, how are they able to pay rent later on? So that's where it becomes difficult. But if you're a housing provider, landlord, you're like, look, I don't even have the money. Like, seriously, right? If a tenant hasn't been paying rent, that means they've had no revenue come in, but they still had to pay property taxes, maintenance, mortgage, all that. And now you're asking a housing provider to basically fork over more money. So is this a good idea? Strictly my opinion, but it's a hard no. It's a problem. And the reason being is the more you regulate in a market, the more businesses leave. Look at all the businesses that have left California over the last 10 years, and they're going to states like Florida, Texas, Tennessee, these states that are more business friendly. And the same is going to apply to the housing stock. And this is primarily those in the condo market and the single family market where they can sell the homes and it can be an owner user that picks it up. So for property owners of like apartment buildings, things like that, they're going to have to play ball because the average consumer isn't going to buy one of those. But the mom and pop investors are going to leave. They're going to say, well, if I have $500,000 to spend, I could buy a condo here in LA, I could buy a single family house, or I can go buy multifamily out of state where if a tenant stops paying, we do the eviction and we call it a day. It becomes a business decision. And that's really where I think a lot of city council and a lot of people just don't understand in this concept. I understand there's a human element to it. I understand that there are people who fall in hard times, but we are also, on the flip side, talking about people's retirement, talking about people's sources of income. And if they have a choice to do business elsewhere, they will. Resources have become so much easier to buy out of state. You have pictures online, FaceTiming video tours. You can review the contracts and sign the contracts digitally. Only a few things need to be notarized. And it's like, fine, you get it notarized and overnight it. So you have those options. So the more restrictions they put on housing providers, the more likely they're going to leave the market. What happens when you have low supply? Rents go up, right? Rents are going to go up considerably, and that's what we have been seeing. We've seen it in other states as well. Oregon enacted rent control in 2019, and by 2021, rents doubled. So now you're asking, for those that were on the fence about selling, or on the fence about renting here in Los Angeles, this would just be another, nail in the coffin on a reason to leave. So I'd love to get your thoughts, comment below. I understand it can be a hot topic because it's very sensitive, but this is a business. And if you don't want it to be a business, then it has to be, government run, and the government's not doing it. So there you go. Talk to you guys later.